Good afternoon, race fans. What an amazing weekend at Texas Motor Speedway. I thought we had three outstanding races, with the truck race being I don't know. The truck race seemed to be the best of the three this weekend. So, really enjoyed watching that. I think even Joey Logano said this is some of the best racing he's ever seen when watching the truck race. Ended up with Carson Hocevar and Kyle Busch going 1-2. So, sort of inverting the race they had earlier in the year, where Kyle Busch finished first and Carson Hocevar finished second. This was kind of the opposite. We had Carson Hocevar first and Kyle Busch second, but what an epic race. Honeycutt. I mean, it was, roads, everybody. It was great passing, a lot of good strategy, and we'll get into it. But what can I say? I feel like the truck race was the best of the three, but we had three really solid races, and let's get into it, race fans. So, all right. So here is my scoring for the Cup race. Congratulations to Chase Elliott. I thought he did an excellent job. Good strategy, pitting early. Um, Overall, just some solid racing. I didn't think the passing was as good as it could have been. It was very much a track position race, but that first stage, there was so much varying strategy that I actually scored it an 8.5 on strategy, because we had short pitting, we had two tires versus four tires, we had kind of, we had Brad Keselowski later in the race staying out. So there was a lot of varying strategy. So I scored that quite high. I liked the variation. I thought they all did a good job, and it was just, you know what? Let's see who can actually pull this out. Still had some pit road chaos, which we'll get into, but what can I say? Overall, 8 for enjoyment, 8 for racing quality, 8.5 for strategy, 7.5 for tire. We saw good tire fall off. There was definitely a difference between new tires and older tires, though not as much as, some other races. And we weren't getting into the issues of, getting corded, or dramatic fall off where you had chunks of rubber coming off, things like that. So gave that a 7.5 because of the varying strategy and the fact that you had good tire fall off. And then passing, I gave it a 7.5, which might be a little generous, but I thought you had some decent passing, and a lot of okay movement. Not as great passing as I would have liked. So that's probably the one score that I'm a little iffy on, but I thought it was kind of slightly above average, so that's why I gave it a 7.5 for a total of 79, which puts us basically tied with Darlington. But frankly, I would put Darlington above Texas in this one, just because I thought it was a much better race, and I am particularly partial to the Darlington track. I think that is an excellent track, very technical, very difficult for an oval. So I don't know. I think, Texas had a lot of redeeming qualities to it. I thought overall, very good race, not an excellent race, not a, so it's right on that 79%. Like, it's a, C plus B minus, so above average, but not getting into those higher B's or even an A. But overall, and yes, I know I am being very hard on the sport as far as grading, because it's going to take an exceptional race to get an A. I mean, think we have, I think, only one 86. Yeah, Atlanta. Daytona was an 80, Phoenix was an 80, Darlington is 79, Texas is 79. So we're bunching up right around that, 80% mark, but we only really had one truly outstanding race in Cup this year, and I think that was Atlanta. And nothing has gotten into those A grades yet, because maybe you tell me, am I being too harsh? Do I need to be a little bit more forgiving? And so these grades are a little higher. Like, should Atlanta have been basically like a 90, which would have put it at the very bottom end of the A range? Or do you think this is fair? Do you think I'm being, legitimately critical and not overinflating and giving them, too high of grades? I'm trying to be accurate. I mean, that's why Martinsville is a D. That was a horrible race. It was below average in passing, and below average in enjoyment. I don't think anybody really enjoyed that race. It was just sort of a cluster F the whole time. So, but let's move on, because I mean, what can we say? We'll get more. You know what? I'm shifting gears, calling an audible right now. We are going to jump to results so we can talk about the specific drivers. So, yeah, we are calling an audible right now. Boom. So, Chase Elliott was your winner. Got 69 points. Denny Hamlin, this was a repeat of Kansas. And, Denny Hamlin coming up and almost being there. But I think I don't know, the feel good story of this week and last week is Alex Bowman getting P3 in both races, Talladega and Texas. And what can I say? Alex Bowman has come back, is, swinging for the fences, proving that he belongs here, proving that he has overcome the vertigo issues, and is racing really well. So two P3 finishes is outstanding. Then you got, Tyler Reddick, definitely was in the mix. Wasn't really talked about a lot on the broadcast, but he was definitely in the mix. Chris Buescher was probably the best performing Ford all day long. We saw glimpses of Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, but we'll get to you know Logano in a minute. Same thing. We'll get to Priest in a minute. But Daniel Suarez finished sixth. He started P2, dropped back, faded. Looked like he was going to have a horrible day, but he rallied and finished P6. Carson Hocevar started P1. Congratulations on getting the pole. Definitely the dude has some momentum right now. Won Talladega, won the Texas truck race, and got the pole all in a space of a week. So congratulations, Carson Hocevar. Big points day for him too. I think he got, just double check. Yeah, 41 points. So he scored only 2 points short of what Denny Hamlin did because he got enough stage points during the day to really make up for the P7 finish. William Byron, you know what? He had a quiet day, but it's kind of what William Byron needed because the Chevys, as everybody knows, have not been performing well, and to see William Byron getting a top 10 finish, finishing in eighth position, um, is huge because he's one of those racers that you're like, he should always be basically in contention for the win and should be in contention for the chase. And you're just looking at the points and where he's finishing lately, just kind of scratching your head. So I think this is overall a good finish for William Byron, and basically kept his nose clean all day and just kind of, raced a fairly mundane race, but I think that's what he needed. Bubba Wallace rallied late to get a top 10 finish. So congratulations to him. Had a couple bad finishes recently. So I think this was a good thing for him. Ryan Blaney just did not qualify well. I believe he started 31st. Yeah, 31st right there. And so he rallied to P10, but he was behind the eight ball, and had to come up. Riley Herbst, this was a surprise. He was running in the top 10 most of the day. And I think those 2311 cars, as we've said many times, have a lot of speed. So it's finally good to see Riley Herbst getting a decent finish and to have a good run during the day. Brad Keselowski and Ryan Preece kind of gambled on track position. They stayed out to get some stage points, which may have been smart, but I think they sacrificed track position, and they were able to rally because after they stayed out, got the stage points for stage two. They started well down. I think they started in the 20s, and then they had to rally back to finish 13th and 14th. Now, Ryan Preece, you all know I'm a big fan of Ryan Preece, but he may or may not have put Gibbs into the wall. It's based on his comments on the radio, it sounds like he probably did, but based on his comments like, hey, I never touched the guy, he may have not. But I'm gonna err on the side of he probably got a little frustrated with Gibbs and maybe gave him a small assist into the wall. So we'll see how that plays out this week. But definitely, like I'm a Ryan Preece fan. I don't like to see him putting people into the fence, but if you've done something to piss off Ryan Preece, you probably actually did it, is my guess. So but I would prefer him to run a cleaner race. That's just me. Austin Cindric, I think a P15 is actually pretty good. He had gotten a little higher, but I think this is a solid finish for him. Same thing with Connor Zilic and SVG, finishing 16th and 17th. They kind of rallied and got back up into the teens, which is probably pretty good considering Trackhouse has not looked fast the past couple weeks. So getting out of the basement, finishing in the 30s and the low 20s to finish 16th and 17th, I think is a good step in the right direction, especially Connor Zilic. I think he needs the confidence, especially like he rallied and won the Oreilly race a couple weeks ago. And I think this is a good sign for him that his car is now starting to perform better. I feel like Chevy is now getting a handle on the balance of the new body style and everything. So, what can I say? I'm excited for Connor Zilic to do a little better. Austin Dillon was running well most of the day. Kind of surprised he dropped to 18th, but I feel that's kind of where those RCR cars are prone to finishing right now. And then Ricky Stenhouse, I think 19th is actually pretty good for him. But I think the thing that most people are talking about right now is Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch started P6, had a good qualifying. He's on the new crew chief this week, but it's really like he went back to the crew chief he had for the tail end of last year that they had moderate success. Kyle Busch was doing so well all day long, running in the top 10, looking good, looking kind of like Kyle freaking Busch. And then he got into Nemechek, and I think his excuse for why he got into Nemechek, maybe he didn't realize how close he was off of his back right corner, and so he kind of nosed himself into the wall that because he didn't realize that Nemechek was right there. But at the same time, you gotta have a mental map, like carrying all the cars around you. Where are they? And your spotter is supposed to help you with that. I don't know if this was a failing of the spotter. I don't know if it's just Kyle Busch thought he had a couple more feet on the guy, which is what he put out on Twitter. It's like he thought he had 2 more feet. I don't really care. I don't like the fact that he quite obviously retaliated. I think it actually ruined his day, slowed him down. Um, Kyle Busch has always been kind of a hothead and like, hey, you were supposed to do this. That's what I was banking on. No, you're supposed to react to the other players on the field, not expect them to do what you're expecting them to do. Now you can do a little bit of like, no, I expected this guy to move that way and he didn't, and I screwed up. But you got to take a little bit of ownership on that. And instead, Kyle Busch just put John Hunter Nemechek into the wall and kind of ruined his day. He was running top 10 all freaking day. And then, he finishes P20, Nemechek P21. And I feel like it's all because Kyle Busch got upset at himself for basically not realizing Nemechek was right off of his, back right rear and putting himself into the wall. But he took it out on Nemechek, basically saying, hey, you did this. It's your fault. But I think it's more frustration. He knows that he was running top 10 all day. He knows that he had a chance to have a top 15 finish. And that was basically what I think RCR had for a goal at Texas, was to not be in the basement. And Kyle Busch screwed it up. He let his temper get the best of him instead of going, you know what, I can bank some points here. I can build on this finish and realize like I've got the speed. And if you watch the first 2/3 of that race, he was in the top 10. He was racing. He looked like Kyle freaking Busch instead of Ricky Stenhouse. I don't expect Ricky Stenhouse to, except for on some super speedways, to finish top 10. Not because he's a bad driver, but because his equipment isn't quite there where the other teams are. Kyle Busch, I expect him to finish in the top 10 pretty much almost no matter what equipment he's in because he's Kyle freaking Busch. He's one of the greatest drivers in NASCAR history. He's a top 10 NASCAR Hall of first ballot Hall of Famer. Like the dude can drive, and yet I feel like he keeps shooting himself in the foot and doesn't have his emotions in check. Like he's always been a hothead, but dude, you just turned 41 years old. You should be able to go, and compartmentalize your anger and realize you have bigger fish to fry and don't get caught up in this petty bullshit. So, Kyle Busch, you're one of the greatest drivers in NASCAR history. Please stop the petty antics and be Kyle freaking Busch. Um, I don't know what to say. It's just I expect more from Kyle Busch because I know how good of a driver he is. And I expect him to be able to take mid-pack equipment and finish in the top 10. I expect him to take, a top 10 piece of equipment and to finish in the top 5. It's just that because I have seen him do so much over the last 20 plus years that it's just it hurts my brain when you're like you do stuff like this. So I don't know, man. I just boggles the mind. But let's keep going. Briscoe, the 23rd, like he was doing much better, and I feel like he kind of got screwed there. Congrats to Ty Dillon on a 24th place finish. He started 35th, so I think coming up to 24th is pretty good. Chastain, let's get to Chastain here. He was running up toward the front for a little while. And so I am surprised that he fell back that hard, but he was looking pretty decent for the middle of the race. And it's just one of those things that you're just like, what happened? And then Michael McDowell. I like Michael McDowell. I like his attitude. I think he's kind of a bit of a smartass. Uh, um, but it always surprises me because Suarez and Hocevar got sixth and seventh. I feel like Michael McDowell, like maybe something happened. I'll have to go back and watch, but I feel like he was driving better than 27th. So just I think an unfortunate finish for him. And then yeah, Corey Heim was doing great, was leading for a long time. And he gambled. He stayed out front, kept leading until he basically ran out of fuel. And it's like, look, I got to pit because they were banking on a caution. And if that caution had come, the running long would have looked like a genius move, but the caution never came, and so he had to pit under green. And what can you say? Overall, interesting day. Kyle Larson wrecked. Cole Custer wrecked. Not his fault though. He was on pit road and he stopped to let somebody out. And Joey Logano had come out of his pit box, and I'm sure he was probably looking at the lights on his dash or looking for other traffic. And he just hit the gas and ran right back into the back of Cole Custer, destroying Cole Custer's car, destroying his own car, and ending his day. And it's just one of those, you're looking at Joey Logano, and it's just like the sloppiness is not normal for Joey Logano. If he had been just 2 feet to the right, 18 inches to the right, it wouldn't have happened. So it's one of those where I feel like the sloppiness kind of led to the pit road collision, and it ruined Cole Custer's day and it ruined Joey Logano's day. Ty Gibbs, and this is where I do question whether Ryan Preece, and I got a question like why Ryan Preece. I got to go back and look, but like, what did Ty Gibbs do to Ryan Preece to make him so angry that he went on this long rant about Ty Gibbs having such a fast car that he shouldn't do all this stupid stuff? And then, end of rant. And again, I'm a Ryan Preece fan. Ty Gibbs is growing on me. I felt like he's been doing really, really well this year. This is probably his worst race all season. And so it's one of those you're just like, what happened that I didn't see, that the cameras didn't see, that wasn't televised to cause Ryan Preece to get so angry at Ty Gibbs, and potentially again, Preece says he never touched him, but from SVG's in-car camera and his radio, it sounds like SVG wanted to report a murder. So what can I say? And then we already talked about Joey Logano, but Christopher Bell, Todd Gilliland spun around and was coming down the track, and Denny Hamlin slammed on the brakes and went above him. Christopher Bell decided, you know what, let's use the accelerator and go below him. And it just caught, Gilliland just caught his back rear quarter panel just enough to basically just cause him to go careening and into the wall and ended his day. And so I feel bad for Christopher Bell. He is, frankly, one of the best drivers in Cup, in my opinion. He's not one of those guys I like root for, but he's not one of my neutral guys. I would say he's on the in the 20 or so drivers I'm positive about. He's just not one of those that I get super excited because I expect him to do so well every week that he's just sort of like I get more surprised when Christopher Bell does poorly than when he's like, oh yeah, another P3 or something like that. So um, yeah, it's an unfortunate one. Christopher Bell just got the wrong place, wrong time, and just the kind of perfect push by Gilliland on his right rear to cause him careening into the wall as he went through the trioval. And it's just unfortunate, but it is what it is. So, but let's now jump back and go to O'Reilly. And Kyle Larson won. It was a pretty solid race. Came down to Allgaier and Larson, and I think Allgaier frankly had a faster car, but Kyle Larson put on a defensive showcase. Same thing with Carson Hocevar on Friday night in the truck race. He got out front and then he just was able to hold off Honeycutt and Bush and a couple others by just taking their air away and taking the lane away and just doing everything right. And so we saw two outstanding defensive performances by Cup drivers in the lower series. So Kyle Larson on O'Reilly's, and then Carson Hocevar in trucks. But take a look at my scoring here. Um, I am still on Cup. So here we are on O'Reilly. Scored it the same as Cup, but slightly different. I gave it an 8.5 for enjoyment, an 8 for race quality, an 8 for strategy, a 7 for tire, and an 8 for passing. I just thought it was a super fun race. Good battles between Allgaier and Larson, couple other battle, like a lot going on. I initially like it started out as a little bit of a spin fest and a wreck fest, and I was about to score it really down because of the first like 20 laps or so. But it then kind of sorted itself out. It got, the track kind of got rubbered in properly. And it just overall, I thought it improved. So I was thoroughly impressed. Thought it was a very solid performance. I gave it a 79, basically right in line with the Cup race, just a kind of a different reason why. In the Cup race, I gave it a higher strategy score. In the O'Reilly race, I gave it a higher enjoyment score. So, but overall, and higher passing too. But overall, I thought it was a really good race. And let us jump over to, you know, Sam Mayer, Brent Cruz got fourth, Parker Retzloff got fifth, Sheldon Crean sixth, Austin Hill seventh, Brandon Jones eighth, Jesse Love ninth. Jesse Love was racing better than ninth, but I just feel like he got behind the eight ball at some point. Jeremy Clemens had a good day, P10 finish. Carson Quapple just could never get into the top five, but overall I thought he raced really well. Same thing with Sammy Smith. But yeah, it was just a O'Reilly is just more consistent, I feel, with how good the racing has been. So I don't know. I feel like O'Reilly, I don't know. There's something about the O'Reilly racing that just seems to be more consistently better. We didn't have the Martinsville problem as badly in Oreilly than we had in Cup. Cup was just not a good race. Um, Martinsville for Cup was just the most mundane, like sevens across the board. So seriously average. I mean, that's my baseline scoring. As you can see, a 70 is the baseline. And so, yeah, I don't know what to say except for it just very solid, very solid. And Oreilly is quickly, everybody's kind of like, why is Oreilly seeming to have better quality racing each week than Cup? Um, and so we'll see. I think it's the car. I think if we put Cup in the O'Reilly's cars, I think it'd be very interesting to see how that plays out because different suspension, different aero, different engine package. But it just seems to, it's carbureted. Maybe the fact that it's carbureted has something to do with it. I don't know. But it just seems overall the racing quality is much more consistent in the O'Reilly series. Um, and then let us jump over to truck. I scored truck at 83. Gave it a 9 for passing. The passing was fantastic. Tire left at 7. Strategy 8. Racing quality I put at 9. So that's two nines. We haven't had this high a score since yeah, Daytona. Daytona was an 88. Um, the only 10 I've given in any series was Daytona in the truck series. That was just such a phenomenal race. And then this Texas race, I mean, I could have given it a 9 and been closer to like an 85, but I gave it an 8.5 for enjoyment instead of a 9. And so, yeah, it came in at 83% or a solid B, putting it as the second best race in the truck series this year, according to my metric. But it's also raising the overall average for trucks to 79, while my average in Oreilly is 76.67 and in Cup it's 76.54. So, we're not far off between Cup and Oreilly. And I think the reason Cup is catching up a little bit is because of races like Atlanta, which raised its average a fair amount. So overall, what did I say? A great race weekend. Carson Hocevar won on Friday, Kyle Larson on Saturday, and then Chase Elliott on Sunday. So outstanding all the way around. But what can I say? I just love the racing and I just want us to get back to higher quality racing. So let me know what you think. Let me know if you think my scores are accurate or if there's anything you'd like me to cover here. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and let's keep this conversation going.